So we'll go to Skywalker's Academy, who asks a pretty simple question, but definitely one that's probably going to have a long answer. Does Star Wars need saving? Why or why not? Does it need saving? I think yes, more than it's ever needed. It really is specifically about the younger generation, right? Star Wars has kind of had complete grasp on almost every generation of fans since the 70s. We can speak for experience on from experience on that because I didn't know that people hated the prequels until I got older. Like, when I was a kid, I thought everybody loved them as much as I did, and they were Star Wars to me. I have a feeling we're gonna see people in the future have the same thing about the sequels and then Mandalorian. But now we're getting to a time where we've really been at a 3, 4-year stretch where you've got to wonder what connects with the younger audiences about what Star Wars has been making. How do we resurrect Star Wars in the minds of kids and the next generation of fans on top of pleasing, the 3, 4, 5 generations of fans that we already have, right? I think Star Wars is eternal for a lot of people who loved it already. There are a lot of people, ourselves included. I'll throw myself in there. I will watch everything, but I don't have a confidence in Star Wars anymore. I've lost a lot of faith in that something's going to be good. And also worse, I've lost a lot of faith that something's actually going to come out when they announce it. I think there's a lack of excitement, a lack of enthusiasm, and a lack of joy around this franchise right now, not just with the divide between the fandom, but the fact that we can't trust the company because we can't trust that things are actually going to come out. So it's hard to get too excited about Ray's movie when you don't know if it's ever going to exist. It's hard to get too excited about Dawn of the Jedi when you don't know if it's ever going to exist. And it's just been a track record of things not ever coming to fruition that has led to this overall general hesitation. So that's a big thing. They need to get more consistent with that. And I think they need saving there, but they need to create product that vibes with children and is able to get that next generation perpetuating the Star Wars myth. Because right now there's more competition than there's ever been, but with entertainment at your fingertips in every single way now, kids, people, impressionable youth have things to latch onto besides Star Wars. Back in the day, Star Wars was the event. Now it's just another one of these movies to come out. You have to recreate the event that is Star Wars. You have to recreate the passion within the fan base that already exists, the excitement and desire about what's coming out for the fan base that already exists. And you have to reappeal to the younger audience as well, especially if you look at this year, right? I mean, who would have thought that 2 Star Wars shows coming out this year would barely crack some of the top rated shows of the year? You have lightsabers, you have the Force. That stuff used to be a guaranteed hit, and it's not anymore. And that's why it needs saving. I think as a brand, it is just starting to fade off its excitement level, and they need to reinvigorate that excitement.
Yeah, I have a lot of the similar sentiments. I do think Star Wars needs to be saved, but I think it's more saved from a lot of the decisions of its first 10 years under Disney. What are we going to do with movies? Well, we still don't have an answer, right? Our next movie up after some of the early failures of the Star Wars story, right? Rogue One, incredible hit. Making sure that there is a direction and not like constantly remaking your mind about the direction of movies. That has to happen. And these announcements should I think it's inevitable that Star Wars with just how divisive it can be online in fandoms. Even the trays are gonna try to get a little bit of the attention of people like, "Oh, here's a rumor that seems fairly credible from our sources that, hey, Gosling's showing up for the Levi film," or something like that. These official announcements have to stop coming out and, some of them were forced. We know that the 2020 slate was essentially forced by Chapek. We're moving past a lot of the mistakes of the Chapek era that made a lot of the Iger mistakes with the movies a little bit more apparent. Keep the movies big events, keep the shows a little bit more like pockets of the universe that if they do have any reference in other things, great. If they have a character cameo, great. But it really, really shouldn't be like, hey, we have to transition our TV shows that or in streaming, which, streaming is not necessarily super profitable. Let's now make it a movie universe for everything. Like that can't happen. Right? Like we'll let it slide with the Mandalorian Grogu because we never knew this could be such a huge story for all of Star Wars. But yeah, I don't think that should be direction moving forward. And three, I don't think this is something Liam and I have talked about, but one thing that's always disappointed me is that I feel like Star Wars was a little late to the game for a lot of things, right? Especially outside of just the technological advancements of ILM. Like a lot of the big things that ILM used to be known for was the Star Wars films. Like we've changed to digital filmmaking, how we're using green screen now instead of blue screen, animatronics and how they're being brought back in. All that stuff to kick off The Force Awakens, really cool. We need to feel like, oh, they're pushing the boundaries. Other mediums, right? Like, yes, it's great that we got the High Republic and it's picking up of like the best parts of New Jedi Order structure wise and all that. And now that we're getting some stuff like the manga from the High Republic, that still feels like a side piece. Manga has become such a huge thing. Anime has become such a huge thing since we were both in like late middle school, early high school when it started being weird and geeky to like this is the pop culture now. How did it take so long to get original manga? We only had like small little things here and there. We still don't have an anime. Yes, things are biting into more and more people's attention, but the thing that's helping counter that is new mediums, new ways of telling story. That's why things like storytelling in video games becoming a lot more narrative focused. Star Wars has always kind of kept up with that. That's why when the Jedi Fallen Order game came out and Survivor came out, people love that. Even if you don't love Outlaws, people are excited for that and Squadrons to have more story. That's what Star Wars was really ahead of its time for. They just need to start kicking into that more.
Those are all good points as well. Because Lucas, for all his flaws that people want to attribute to him, he was an absolute master marketer. He had Star Wars everywhere, right? And Star Wars is being part of a machine now. It doesn't look to push the boundaries as much. We haven't necessarily talked about that in terms of innovation, so I think that's a good point. But we definitely have talked about that in terms of storytelling. And Star Wars needs to figure out how to push the envelope, find new paths. Don't always rely on the old things, even if it is an old nostalgia based franchise. Find the next thing. That's the biggest part. Is I mentioned it earlier, find the next Mandalorian. They need to absolutely desperately do that. Mandalorian is now going to be in the movie universe, but they need to go beyond that. Mandalorian's still too tied to the main Star Wars continuity. They need to take risks, but they need to do them correctly. They need to put the time and effort. And it's a big thing. I mean, it's easy for all of us to sit here and say, you need to do this, you need to do that. But I think they have waited long enough to where you would expect, hopefully, some form of a plan and initiative and action. Star Wars isn't the brand it was under Lucas. George was just nonstop with the extra content.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
had less films, we had less TV, but we had way more in terms of books, comics, video games. And that's crazy because it was all funded by one person versus a corporation that owns a comic book company, that owns a streaming service, that owns all this stuff, right? So it's going to be interesting to see where they take it. People have always talked about Star Wars burnout. Can you have Star Wars burnout? Is there superhero fatigue? Can there be Star Wars fatigue? Absolutely. But nothing fatigues fans faster than when you make mediocre stuff. Hello there, Star Wars Lads fans. Thank you so much for watching this video. This was actually a clip from one of our live streams and Q&As. So if you'd like to join us every single Tuesday around 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, make sure you join us. It'll allow you to ask a question that might be turned into a video. Hopefully you join us. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below all of your thoughts on this clip. Thanks for watching, and we will see you all next time.